There we go. So yeah, welcome everybody to this webinar on migrating from Splunk to Datadog seamlessly with us, RapDev. My name is Rich Upshaw. I'm the Director of Engineering in EMEA for RapDev, and Pierre.
I'm the partner solution architect for Datadog, and if you want me to say more, I will.
You're good. You can say more in a minute. Where is my... There we go. So just do a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to do so within the Q&A section in Zoom. Myself and Pierre will keep an eye on that as best as we can throughout the webinar here, but there is a dedicated section where we'll get through all of those questions at the end. But as a quick agenda, we'll take everyone through a quick introduction to RapDev and Datadog. Then we'll take a look through why organizations are moving from Splunk at the moment. We'll dive into how migrations work and the benefits of getting RapDev involved with those migrations. I'll then hand it over to Pierre to take a look through some of the improved visibility with Datadog, with some of their recent feature announcements. And as I said, we'll wrap everything up with a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to drop all of your questions into the chat, into the Q&A section. This session is being recorded, so we will share it out afterwards as well. So first and foremost, who are RapDev? We are one of the largest Datadog partners out there. We've won Partner of the Year 3 years in a row. 3 or 4 years in a row, and essentially we are all practitioners just like you. So we have been so successful within our own organizations using Datadog that we founded our own company to help others do the same. And over the past 4 or 5 years, we've done 300 plus Datadog implementations, which is the most in the world. We also have 45 plus marketplace integrations. So if you take a look in the marketplace section of Datadog, you will find all of our integrations there. And a crucial thing here at the bottom, we at RapDev have no financial conflict of interest with Datadog. We don't take any money from them. They don't take any money from us. We are very much an objective third party when it comes to the use of Datadog. Pierre, over to you for a little intro to Datadog for those that are unaware.
Thanks a lot. So I'm sure you already all know Datadog. You probably know some aspect of Datadog, but do you know how big Datadog is? That's almost a question I want to answer is. And the idea is that Datadog has been growing a lot. You know it for your observability platform, but we have way more product now. We have a shift right possibility with cloud security, cloud service management, shift left with CI/CD, and all integrated in one platform. There is a lot of number on this. We'll probably share the slide in the recording. You can read all of it on your own if you want. But what to remember is that Datadog is almost a $3 billion revenue company. We are operating in more than 33 countries. We have 30,000 customers, and we keep growing. Most of our customers that are using Datadog usually use more Datadog every day. And the goal is to keep growing and keep finding a way to assuage all the issue and all the need of observability that you might have. So as I said, Datadog is growing. It was started in 2010 as a universe, basically an event platform where you would get all your infrastructure information and so on. But then we grow through the 3-pillar observability: log, traces, infra. And I would say it almost looked like an exponential curve, but every year, because Datadog started growing, we added more and more product. And that's how we started saying, okay, what else do we need to look at? What other data do you need to get in? But then after, okay, what else do you need to do with all this data? Security was an obvious shift, but then we're also moving towards strong AI ops, either aggregation, full view of your CI/CD pipeline, end-to-end monitoring from the UI all the way to the infrastructure, and more and more. So Datadog is really an ever-evolving product. And if you have an integration in mind or a feature that is required, we probably already have it in the pipeline.
Perfect. And I think this slide really points out why now is a good time to be talking about Splunk migrations into Datadog, especially in that 2023 column and 2024 column, where you see a lot of investment into SIEM, into error tracking, log management, flex logs. So Datadog has really come a long way over the last 2 years to really outcompete and outshine some of those Splunk installations. But most importantly, who are you? Who are you on the call? We've got a good, healthy number of people here, and you obviously can't see each other, but just to set the scene as to who you're sitting virtually with. So we have a very good mix of both RapDev and Datadog customers, as well as prospects. Varying degrees of knowledge on both Datadog platform and RapDev's implementation skills, and at various stages of unique migrations. So we've got people on the webinar here who are maybe 10, 15 plus years users of Splunk. We've got people who are very heavily invested in Datadog as well. Not only that, we've got a mix of different folks as well. We've got developers on the call, we've got SRE engineers, we've got some management as well as security folks. So there's a real good mix of people here with us today. So let's first of all take a little look into why we at RapDev see customers moving away from Splunk. There's been quite a high shift in the number of customers coming to us, and many of them bring up the same points time and time again. The first is high ingestion cost. Quite often where customers have been using Splunk for a number of years, as I say, maybe 10 years or so, that cost center is really held at a centralized location. That means application teams and developers almost see Splunk as free. So they're pumping as many logs as they can into Splunk and really driving up that bill for that centralized team. Along with that large scale comes infrastructure maintenance overhead. Whether you're using Splunk on-prem or Splunk in the cloud, there's a lot of overhead that needs to happen in terms of compute and storage and the ability to pull those metrics as and when you need. Speaking of metrics, one of the common themes we hear from customers and potential customers is around limited access to real-time analytics. So often it's hard to get at data quickly. It may take a minute or two for dashboards to load up, for logs to come back, which really hampers some of that investigation work that needs to happen when issues and outages occur. As that environment scales, as more teams come on board into Splunk, we really see a lot of performance bottlenecks start to come along. Concurrent people searching the same logs, for example, everybody diving into an issue, that's where the platform really starts to slow down. Those creaks come in. And again, it just impacts the ability for businesses to react to outages, to downtime, or any error situation that they're handling. Combined with that, we see complex querying and alerting. This is a great marketing term, but what does it actually mean? All too often we're seeing customers say, hey, when I need a new dashboard, when I've got a new application on board, or I want to look at a new set of business KPIs, I need to reach out to an internal development team who will then go away, they'll take those requirements, they'll build out a dashboard, they'll build out some monitors, and in a week, maybe 2, they'll be back with that dashboard. But I'm asking because I need it now. I don't need it in 2 weeks' time. Well, I may need it in 2 weeks' time, but that information is really pertinent to me now. So speed of engagement within Splunk is quite often fairly slow. And again, just to reiterate, there's that reliance on in-house experts for querying logs, for building out dashboards and monitors. So why is now a good time to migrate? We've already seen that Datadog has really built a platform suited to taking over those Splunk workloads, as I said, with that move into SIEM and flex logs. But ultimately, it drives more value faster. Self-service dashboards in minutes, not weeks and months. So Pierre, if he was investigating an issue, could just dive into Datadog, pull in a few graphs, pulling up the pieces of data that are interesting to him, and find the root cause of any of those problems. Secondly, when we're talking about costs, the ability of Datadog to allow for flexible ingestion, indexing, and retention of logs really helps build a cost-effective, scalable solution. And we more often than not see a 30% or more cost reduction when shifting logs into Datadog. And all of this leads to faster troubleshooting. End-to-end correlation of traces, logs, and metrics out of the box. We see this reducing incidents from hours to minutes. I was recently talking to a customer that we completed a project with. They used to have 80 people being pulled together in a war room. That's now been reduced to 8, and they can get to the bottom of incidents really, really quickly. But that's why moving to Datadog is a great thing to be doing now. But what are the best practices for a migration? This is kind of how we base our projects and how we guide our customers within these migrations. First of all, assess your current Splunk usage. Take a look at where logs and metrics are coming in from. Is it cloud environment? Is it on-prem? Are there third-party software as a service providers such as AWS, Confluent Cloud, for example, which are also emitting data into Splunk? Really do an assessment of where that data is coming from. Then from there, define key migration objectives. Obviously, one of them is going to be I've migrated, but what's important to you? Are there key KPIs and SLOs that you want to surface to the top? Are there legacy ways of thinking, legacy practices that you want to drop during that migration? From there, move on into an exercise of mapping dashboards and alerts into Datadog. We'll dig into it a little bit later, but we see a lot of customers trying to bring everything with them. They'll have a slew of dashboards and alerts, maybe even going into the thousands of dashboards, and they'll want to bring everything. It's not the right way to think about it. Really take the time to kind of reorganize your ways of working. But once you've got that mapping done, see how you can translate multiple Splunk dashboards into a single Datadog one to make that migration easy. Next up, we take a look at logging pipelines and optimizing ingestion. This is a really big thing, which we'll touch on again and again during this session here, but really being cognizant of the way that you're pulling logs into the platform. As I've said, people will push all and everything into Splunk, really use those pipelines and ingestion techniques to hold back some of those logs that aren't useful to you. Make sure that the ones that are useful to you are transformed properly into nice human readable JSON to make the Datadog platform really shine and sing for you. Once you've got the groundwork done, it's now time to move into the actual transition. We would always recommend running a hybrid model first before a complete cutover. This allows time for teams to get used to that new way of working, questions to bubble up and to be answered. Maybe take team by team, business unit by business unit before flipping that switch and getting the whole migration, the whole organization moved over to that new observability platform. Once that's done, the task isn't over. There's still a little bit of more work to do, validating and fine-tuning that alerting. Out of the box, some of those monitors and dashboards as they come across from Datadog will get you mostly to where you need, but it's always a good idea to revisit those alerts, maybe fine-tune them, move them over into some of those machine learning alerts, threshold, outlier, and forecast, for example, to make sure that the platform is performing best for you. And these are the key reasons why migrations fail. So we often get asked to be involved with some of these migrations when customers have tried it themselves. They've tried to kick off this journey. They've maybe tried to move over a team or two into Datadog, and the whole thing hasn't really gone very well. And these are the key themes that we see from no clear migration strategy. It's all been kind of ad hoc, get a bit of data over, get some dashboards over. Great, that's in. Now move on to the next one. That really leads to misaligned expectations, especially with the consumers of the platform, those teams, where they really don't understand where to look, how to solve incidents, and ultimately it adds to extended mean time to detection and mean time to resolve. There's also data inconsistencies where things are thrown across quickly. There's no consideration to making sure everything makes sense. Traces and logs are correlated together, for example. So critical logs may be missing. They may not be correlated correctly with traces and metrics. And all of this leads to increased downtime and an increase in alerts. One of the big things we really do here is unexpected costs. Customers will hear all these great stories that I've just mentioned around 30% cost savings moving to Datadog. If you bring your same thought process along with you as you were using in Splunk, it will be more expensive without a shadow of a doubt. Without making use of those ingest controls, making use of flex logs, for example, as we'll find out, that's how you keep a lid on those costs. And then finally, security misconfigurations. For the security folks on the call, that's where we end up with compliance risks and all sorts of areas where the business could be exposed, which we really don't want. And all of this is wrapped up in slow adoption. Teams won't really take to the platform. They won't want to use it. And that wider rollout really stalls and almost becomes a bit of a thorn in the side for a business. And all these reasons end up with a real good, a common business impact that we see down to lost revenue, wasted time, security risks, as I see, and ultimately uncontrolled spiraling costs. So this is where we're often brought in, and how can we at RapDev help? Throughout all of our projects, we take people through our experience of doing it ourselves, but also with our other customers. So we start by building out a structured migration roadmap for you that will list out all of the tasks that we will do and you will be doing to help support that work. We always take a security first approach. We've recently hired a security expert into the team, and he really embeds himself into each of these projects to make sure that security is front of mind for everybody involved. Datadog really shines when you have a good tagging strategy. The tagging strategy is what makes correlation work between logs, traces, digital experience monitoring. So we sit down with stakeholders on the customer's side and consumers of the platform as well to build out a tagging strategy for everybody to follow. Nobody on this earth can spell the word environment correctly, so we want to make sure that that is kept as a single spelling so you don't have a sprawl of tags and ultimately the platform begins to fall apart for you. We'll build out aligned business goals. Obviously, you know your business inside out, so we'll align to those goals, but we'll also have some opinionated opinions on what some of those goals could be for you as well, where we've seen successes in other organizations. And we'll make sure that everything is really solid in terms of data integrity. We'll do validations. And we never want to leave customers relying on us to manage and maintain their Datadog environment. So we do hands-on enablement for all teams that you want to, so that you can really make sure that there's that uptake of the new platform and adoption goes really, really well for you. As I said, we've done this hundreds of times, and here are just a few logos that we can share with you of where we've done this previously. At PayPal, Mercedes-Benz, MyFitnessPal. Organizations large and small, we've really helped, and we've seen an average cost saving of around 32% of Datadog over Splunk when we're involved in those migrations. Again, we really, really want to help those customers have the most cost-effective migration strategy as possible. And this is how we do it. So we've spoken a lot around the pitfalls. Where has this learning come from? over those projects, we've built out this repeatable pattern that we use within our engagements. It's very, very simple to go through. We start every single project with discovery and foundations. We spend time with you and your teams understanding what the business is trying to achieve, what that technical landscape looks like before we dive into those foundations, looking at tagging strategy, how we're going to roll out the agent, what flavors of agents are going to be out there. And then we start building out the scripting against the Splunk API to query that environment, look at the number of dashboards, a number of alerts, as I said, all of those connections coming into the platform. Once we've got our discovery package done, we'll move into phase 2, which is where we begin to pull in the logs into Datadog. We'll do a dashboard and monitor analysis. We will go through all of your dashboards with a fine-tooth comb. We'll throw away all of those ones that people have started and not actually used. We'll condense similar dashboards down into one using tags to pivot over. So you've got a real nice condensed environment to be moving into. We'll then look at running out the automation and deployment. This is where we get the agent up and running, where we get traces and metrics pulled across into the Datadog platform using automation. So it's repeatable, it's accurate, and it's not prone to human error. We then move into phase 4 and 5, which at this point we have all of the data in the platform and it's going through those dashboards, manipulating them a little bit to cater for the data that's coming in from Datadog. And we'll look at doing that cutover support in that migration where I said, do it team by team, for example, we'll support in that cutover. And then finally into that knowledge transfer sessions. We'll upskill all of the people managing the Datadog platform as well as the consumers of the platform to make sure they know exactly how to use it successfully now and in the future. Phase 5 is where we do that little bit of optimization at the end. We'll see how you're using the platform, where tweaks can be made to make that platform the best it can be for you. And one good example of where we will really help with saving costs is by turning Splunk's log complexity into real simplicity within Datadog. Now, this graph looks scary at first, but it's really, really simple. On the left-hand side, you have an example of 20,000 million logs coming into Splunk. That's all of the logs that the developers are throwing in. This is where we see cost spiral in Datadog when customers will just take, or businesses will take all of those logs and drop them into Datadog without thinking about strategy. Using Datadog's tools and services available, pick and choose, go through those logs and pick and choose which should end up in which sort of bucket. For example, 50% of your Java application logs should go in a 7-day bucket. You need them now. You'll only need them in a week to do triage. After a week, they're kind of irrelevant. Some other Java logs you may want to keep for 15 days whilst doing regular debugging, maybe in a development or test environment. I won't go through all of these, but you can see you've got flex logs as an option for rare queries, or fully excluding some of those logs that really add no value to either the business or development teams as well. But all of this really helps you intelligently control both your ingestion costs and your overall costs of Datadog. So Pierre, over to you to really dig into some of those elements of Datadog that can help here.
Thanks a lot, Rich. I like the idea of migrating and doing a sprint cleaning at the same time, right? Making sure that you use only the right dashboard and using the right log. I think that's really where Datadog can give you all the right tools to do that as well. So we know Datadog as a unified observability tool, right? Very easy to use. You don't need to be an expert to query log, to have correlation between log, metrics, and traces. But Datadog is way more than this now, right? We have tons of AI ops powered tools directly built in. Like, did you know about Watchdog root cause analysis, for example? In one click, I can look at an error that appeared in my error tracking. have a look at all the related signals that are coming in, including, for example, the users that are currently impacted, right? Or even if I have access to the source code because I did a shift left with CI/CD, I can even have suggestion on how to resolve the problem in the code directly, or what kind of probe I need to add, right? That's one of the superpowers that AI Ops can bring directly in Datadog, or we call it Beats AI and Watchdog. Another thing is we understood that logging without limit, which is basically decorating the log ingestion with log indexing, is a great tool for optimization, but how could we go beyond? And that's where Datadog created FlexLog in order to decorrelate storage and compute. I'll go more in detail afterward. And finally, because Datadog is the center of truth for your entire organization, why not make it also the center of truth for all your security needs? Datadog has invested a lot in the last 5 years in our security product, not only on the monitoring of security, but also in the compliance. And I'll try to have a look at this in detail later. So let's talk a bit about those different innovations that were created recently that could help you a lot during a migration with Splunk, or just as a general rule to centralize your information in Datadog. As I said, FlexLog, capability to decorrelate storage and compute. You may have some logs that don't need to be looked at all the time, or that you need to store for a very long time for compliance and security reasons, but you don't need to put monitor on them, or you need to query them very or less often. You could have in the same screen of Datadog log search, a quick toggle to say, I want to look at those logs as well now. And then the compute or the time for those query will be related to how much compute you're willing to invest as well. This completely allow you to control the cost all the way from what query are important, what data do I need to have in real time. And it prevents having a giant bucket with all the log, and sometimes query gets slow, sometimes they not. In Datadog, you can exactly decide what goes where. Second is observability pipeline. Observability pipeline is a way to quickly get all information from external sources and even internal sources, look at this on-prem or on the cloud, being able to put some rules like sensitive data scanning and reroute them to different areas. It could be Datadog, but also other places and so on. If you think about migrating from a log source to another, this is the ultimate tool. I strongly recommend you to have a look at this. I will not do a deep dive on this, but it's a super powerful tool. Next one is Log Workspace. We know that Datadog is extremely easy. You don't need to be an expert to use it. It's super easy to correlate the information in. What if you want to do something more complex? What if you want to cross with other sources of data that might not be in Datadog? Well, Logs Workspace is exactly for this. You can even use like SQL query language on top of Datadog to be able to extract information or cover the data with different data sets coming from outside. All this directly in Datadog with all the visualization tools that you already know and love from Datadog. And finally, we also know that Datadog is the ultimate tool for correlating all your metric traces and data. Well, with Datadog, I would say the unified visibility that we're adding, you can even increase all these views across your security as well. So every kind of signal that are coming in, including SIEM signal, security signal, or even let's say a Java process that decide to spawn a shell, all this can be visible in the same unified platform. So let's take a quick deep dive on FlexLog, right? As I said, FlexLogs is dissociating the flex storage, right? Low storage cost, even lower than the ingestion rate, and the compute. How fast do I want my query to run? How fast do I need them to run? If you go on the next slide, you'll see that basically this is kind of a perfect space that exists between indexing and archiving, right? How long do I need this log to stay? Do I need them very fast? And Rich did a very good call to action on it, right? He said, hey, you have 20 million line of events that are coming in. Which one do you need where? And you cannot think about it, but then it's even better to think about it early, because then you will craft the right signals on it. It will reduce your alert fatigue just by putting the thought process on what do I need where and why. And this is the idea of indexing, archiving, and flex right in the middle. Now we cover all of this. So how does it look like in Datadog? If you're familiar with Datadog, you know how to create an index on Datadog while you have your ingestion index. Now you can set up a flex tier and you can go beyond the regular 7-day, 30-day storage. You can go up to 300-day storage. And the same UI for log search, like Log Explorer, can also include FlexLog. In a nutshell, nothing really changed in the way you use Datadog. You just have more flexibility on the way this is going to be used. So let's think about what does FlexLog solve? Well, as I said, consolidating all the log in one type, understanding how kind of retention and why, how do you want to do it, and make sure that this entire experience stay in the Datadog way of experience where everything is easy to understand and to use. So next tool I wanted to talk about was Logs Workspace. As I said, Log Workspace, again, we can give you more detail on this later, or you can just look in our documentation for it. But you can add extra data set coming from outside of Datadog or inside Datadog, even like CSV file or whatever you want to use. And then you can correlate all this data using all the visualization tools that are out of the box with Datadog. That's something that you're, if you're a Splunk user, you might be, I would say, more used to doing it inside Splunk. Now you have the capability to do it inside Datadog, which means that Datadog will be the perfect tool for your new user, but also your seasoned user and experienced user, and allow everybody in your company to use the same tool in the same time. Again, Datadog does not charge per user, so you can have as many users connecting to it. The goal is to be the single source of truth for your development, your security, and your observability. Finally, talking about observability pipeline, this is really a feature that I think is extremely powerful, allowing you to get the data from wherever you want it to be, but also to send it to wherever you need it to be, right? We talked about some logs that might not be important, or maybe you don't know if they are important now. You could use observability pipeline to send them to an S3 bucket, for example, similar to what you would do with archiving, and then send them back in Datadog when it's needed, at the time it's needed. So this is really useful for security, any kind of metrics and information you don't know what to do. And it's super easy to configure directly in the UI of Datadog. So again, a great place to look at. And finally, I wanted to do a quick segue also on security. Datadog is also a very strong security product, right? Not only on compliance, as we mentioned before, but also all the way on code security. Datadog is able to do an entire bill of material of all your libraries and everything you're using, and tell you instantly all the CVEs that exist in your Kubernetes image, for example, or any kind of 0 days that was coming out of research, and all the way to if your software is currently run, is it being exploited? I can tell you via my instrumentation library if someone is currently using a log ingestion in your application. I can tell you which IP it's coming from, which user, and how should you block it. All this can be done directly inside the platform. With all the information we get also from our cloud integration, come cloud security, getting access to all the posture management, knowing when a user is escalating is right, running an S3 bucket is not supposed to, and so on. Plus, Datadog provide out-of-the-box rule for all the compliance framework. And you can rely on your partner to enhance those rules to make sure that you're fully compliant with what you expect and build all the rules that will be required for this. Same exists for live threat management and so on. Datadog is really closing the entire loop on security on top of all this, the strong platform that we already had in place. So when we talk about migration, right, we saw like the plan that Rich showed, which is pretty amazing, all the different phases and everything that's coming on. The idea behind it is that we provide user tools as well and the tools to our partners to be able to make this as easy as possible, right? Partner services are using all the Datadog tools that exist to configure the agent, ingest the log, make sure you set them properly. If you understand all the dashboards that are coming in, how can you upgrade, optimize the alert? The sprint cleaning we were talking about, we also provide tools to do that. And you can rely on your partners to do this for you as well. Again, RapDev, I've done it multiple times. I know how to do it here. But Datadog also can help to enable the end user. Rich mentioned some trainings that can be done after. We also have a self-learning platform that you could use directly on learn.datadogshu.com and accelerate the value of adoption as well, right? Hand in hand with our partner, we can provide long-term strategic planning to make sure that we provide the right observability towards your goal. All this allow very quick and aggressive timeline for migration, and a lot of dashboard consolidation and other capability directly, right? So with that in mind, most of the migration concern you may have should be able to be tackled by Datadog tooling and strong partnership.
Perfect. Thanks, Pierre. I guess one observation I have out of that, and I hadn't really thought about it until you took us through that, is Datadog's becoming more and more complex in a good way. More products, more solutions to help customers meet their observability needs. And this really highlights one of the main reasons why partners such as RapDev are becoming much more used by large businesses in terms of what parts of the platform do I use, when do I use flex logs, when do I use observability pipelines. We have the expertise in-house to be able to answer those questions quickly, whereas if you're doing it yourself, there's a lot to take in a short amount of time. Perfect. So with that, that's pretty much the end. So turn it over to any questions that are in the virtual room here.
Again, the chat might not be available, but the Q&A is. So if you're looking for a place to put your question, please put it in the Q&A section, because I think the chat is currently closed. That's a very, oh, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, so a couple of ones. Let me take the first one, which is what is the difference between flex log and rehydration? It's a very good question. Rehydration means that basically for some time, those logs will get out of Datadog and you won't be able to do any kind of query on it, right? Flex log allow you to have the kind of storage pricing that you would have for rehydration, but to still be able to query them live in Datadog, including creating some report or dashboard or compliance report, security report on this. Can we dig in log workspace some more? Yes, we should definitely do that at some point. I haven't really planned to dig on log workspace right now. There is a lot of great documentation in Datadog. And you can also apply for, I think log workspace is in beta or is it live? Let me check. I think it's live now. So if it's live, I'll give you the link to all the documentation around it. Now it's in preview. So I'm gonna type my answer. And excellent. So then we have what's the response time to query flex log is same as live logs. So that depends. And that's the beauty of decorrelating the compute. The more you add to compute, the more it's going to be as fast as live logs. But the question is, if you need them as live logs, then maybe not using flex log. So flex log is more like you will set up the response time according to the amount of compute you're willing to put in. And we have some calculator for this that can tell you this is the average time you could expect for this kind of request for this amount of log.
I'll take this one, Pierre. Is there a way to migrate charts and dashboards from Splunk Observability to Datadog? Yeah, there is. You can obviously either do it manually and recreate those dashboards. That's probably something you don't want to do because it's time consuming and error prone. But you are able to extract the dashboards from Splunk via API. And the way we do it is we'll pull it out of the API. We'll, as I said, we'll run a report and analysis over those dashboards, see what metrics, what traces, logs, what bits of data are being used in there, what charts and widgets are being used. And we know how to translate those into Datadog language. That may be something, if you're doing it yourself, that you'll have to experiment through. But essentially, you're just changing some of the namespaces of metrics, changing the syntax of log searching, and making the best use of the widgets that Datadog have available to you. Once you get that understanding and that mapping done, a lot of it can be automated, but there'll always need to be a little bit of manual touch-up at the end.
I have one which is with cost management. Have you seen increased usage maturity of data cloud cost management offering? So I think this is related to cloud cost management in Datadog.
I would say so.
Well, again, cloud cost management has been increasing in terms of usage. Actually, it also includes now Datadog usage as part of our cloud cost management. And it's basically allowing you to optimize the cost. So it's an excellent idea actually to enable cloud cost management during your migration to also, if you're using a lot of cloud usage, to optimize your costs in the cloud area as well.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing, Pierre. Cloud cost management is definitely something we've seen being used more and more often, and it's invaluable when you're doing a cloud migration. So on-prem to AWS, for example, or AWS to GCP, because enabling cloud cost management will allow you to catch those cost drifts early, see where there is wasted budget being spent. And now brilliantly that Datadog have got Datadog metrics themselves in there, cost in there. It really helps with the same conversation, but migrating tools as well to make sure that you're doing it in the most streamlined and optimized way. How about support to migrate synthetic tests? Yeah, synthetic tests are very similar in the way dashboards and alerts are done. So pulling out via the API for those API-driven tests, it's fairly quick and easy to be able to translate those. If there's ever any browser journeys, those become a little bit more complicated. They're slightly trickier to do automatically. But again, it's all about streamlining that migration, bringing across what you really need for an observability platform, and kind of removing some of that those tests and those pieces that aren't necessarily used very much. Maybe they've been disabled, or maybe the alerts from them have been ignored.
I'll take the one that either a compute limit and observability pipeline. So observability pipeline can be run either on the cloud or can be run locally. If it's run locally, well, the limitation comes from the hardware that you're currently running the pipeline on. If you're running them behind a Datadog agent, for example, if it's happening on the cloud, there is absolutely no limit, no.
Cool. Where are we? Is there a tool or support to migrate Splunk detector signal flow to Datadog monitors? Yeah, that's exactly what we do. That's what we help our customers do. So yeah, would love to have a follow-up conversation with you to see how we can help you out on that migration.
Any migration tool to automate conversion of Splunk SPL to Datadog query? Not from Datadog side that I am aware of, but I'm happy to investigate. Rich, do you have anything?
Yeah, nothing from Datadog. We've done a little bit. Obviously, as soon as you get to SPL, it's a bit of a large landscape, but it's something that we do help customers migrate. We would typically build tooling specific to each customer's needs, just purely because from the way that SPL is built out. But again, more than happy to dig into it with you at a later time. What are the key challenges organizations face when migrating from Splunk to Datadog, particularly in terms of log detention, log ingestion, dashboard retention, and APM integration across different technologies like Node.js, .NET, and Kubernetes? That's a long question. The key challenges really come down to, so first of all, you've got two ends of the pie. You've got how do you get data into said platform, and then what do you do with it once it's there? So the key challenges are how do you change from a Splunk signal agent into a Datadog one? How do you do it in a fashion which doesn't impact users or has the least possible impact, keeps the business observability alive, and is done in a timely manner, not over a 2-year migration? So typically it will be challenges around, well, how do I get my agent rolled out? What sort of automation tools do we use? And when you're adding Kubernetes into the mix, we often see organizations hit analysis paralysis in terms of, do I use Helm chart, daemon set, operator, whatever it may be? that's where things become unstuck quite quickly if you're just going headlong into a migration. In terms of dashboards and monitors, again, it just comes down to people will try and move everything. I liken tool migration to moving house. I've moved house a number of times over the years. I still have boxes in the loft, in the garage, that I've not opened for 2 house moves. Why do I have it? I don't know. But I keep it, and I don't know why. And that's the same with dashboards and monitors. People will just drag them around because they think they need them and just bring that clutter with them. Pierre, I think one for you. Can you talk through how to route specific logs to Cloud Seam or standard Flex log archive landing zones?
Yes. So route specific log to Cloud Seam or to standard Flex or archive landing zone. I guess you're talking about indexes and where to route it. I mean, the routing is usually done directly via tagging, right? Or services or any kind of information you would get. And that's where you'll be able to send the data to specific area. Now, Cloud Seam is a bit different because if you take the Cloud Seam product by itself, it has its own log storage integrated in it, but that would be the same as a Flex storage, right? So it's always the same as when you create an index and you pick where you want the data to go, whether it's in standard or Flex tier. I hope that answers the question. I guess the issue with chat is we don't know if we answered the question or not. we throw answers
If
at
we
people
didn't
and hope.
complain on the Q&A, I'd ask again a slightly different way. Cool. Next one, and possibly the last one, unless any more come in. How do you ensure that there is no data loss when migrating from Splunk to Datadog with differences in indexing and retention? That is a great question, and something that organizations tend not to think about. The way that we do it at RapDev is typically we will dual ship data for a period of time. So we'll leave Splunk up and running. We will have all of the data going to there, but we will carve it off to Datadog as well. That way you get a side-by-side view of the world. Teams can migrate over slowly into the Datadog environment. And then once everybody's moved over, you just shut down the shipping to that Splunk endpoint. It's the best, most safest way when it really is important to the business not to lose any of that observability during the migration.
Another thing you can do as well is use observability pipeline to send it to an S3 bucket as well as Splunk and Datadog, meaning that during the migration, when you turn off Splunk, you will always have a backup in an S3 bucket that you can rehydrate in Datadog if needed.
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you have experience migrating Splunk ITSI premium app, and how do you recreate migrated services and KPIs into Datadog? That sounds like a longer chat to be having there, but essentially it all comes down to very similar things that we've been speaking about. It's analyzing the current environment, looking at how to automate it and tidy it up and get it moved across. In terms of KPIs, Datadog has got a lot of real useful solutions to build much more robust KPIs based on multiple different data sources, and then ultimately bubbling that up into business level dashboards. Last of all, Pierre, I think we'll make this the last question, I think, but do you offer a SOAR solution or integrate with the Splunk SOAR?
I would need to investigate that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm trying to look right now at the same time, the live answer, but I'd rather take this one and answer this later because I'm really not sure.
Yeah, perfect. I was just doing a little digging in the background as well. But yes, Datadog has really stepped into that space. We at RapDev have really built on top of those offerings that Datadog already have. The security chap that I mentioned earlier on that we brought on into the company, he's led our push into a managed SOC offering for Datadog customers. So we will be hands-on keys in the Datadog environment. We will be responding to security alerts and incidents as they come up, and we'll be involving you and your teams to help resolve and remediate those. That really helps kind of companies get on board with the security platform within Datadog, and also kind of offload that day-to-day management.
Also, we do have workflow automation that could be extremely useful to do this kind of SOAR capability that you see in Splunk. I would say with workflow automation and app builder, we mostly cover what SOAR is able to do. But is it possible to integrate? Yes, because if you create a workflow can be called from Splunk SOAR, for example. So I would say there is a way to do I would say integration, but this is something that could be discussed as well. Great question on hotel. I'm going to take this one because I think it's a very important one.
Oh, you might.
If you use a hotel, well, Datadog love hotel. Okay, we have an entire blog section, an entire section on our website about how hotel is extremely works really well with Datadog. The Datadog agent is an hotel collector, meaning that if you already instrumented your entire code with hotel, then it's very easy to get this sent directly to Datadog. Now, if you want to have security added to it, as I was saying before, detecting SQL injection, being able to block it via the instrumentation library, you might want to switch to Datadog library. But the good thing is Datadog library understand hotel specification. And one of the reasons for it is that some of the existing hotel library, for example, were forks of Datadog instrumentation library. So Datadog has contributed a lot to hotel. We love hotel. We think that people who use hotel are very smart and they should do that. So if you're using hotel, Datadog is a great place to go to.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cool. I think we've come to the end of the questions, Pierre.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining me on this little conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was great.
And everybody feel free to reach out either to Pierre or myself. The details have been on screen for a little while, and we look forward to hearing from you, and thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Pierre.
Bye.
Bye.